Hi, this is Paul with the Oak and Night, and I think I'm bringing you something a little bit out of the ordinary and a little bit special today. This is going to be an overview of Manassas by Iron Crown Enterprises, a 1980 publication covering the First Battle of Bull Run. It's not a very common game these days, but it is out on eBay. I have been able to get a copy out there recently, and there's usually something out there. It comes in both a first edition and a second edition. The second edition, I think, just has back printed counters. The rules are the same. It is, by reputation, one of the best rendition of the Battle of First Manassas that's ever been done. So, and I haven't seen anything out there on YouTube, so I'm fortunate that I got a good copy, and I'd like to show it to you and give you a chance to see what it's about. Now, there's some information on this game available on Board Game Geek, and one of the things that caught my eye on it was Mark Herman wrote one of the discussion groups, and he was saying this is one of his favorite games. He says it's frequently on his table, and he really enjoys this one. So let's take a look at the map for starters. The map is a generous size. It's 3 feet by 4 feet, 36 by 48, so it is a good sized map. Nice, great big hexes. This is not or half-inch counters by any stretch. You can see the counters are actually kind of new style in a sense. Most games are going to larger counters now, and this game was 40 years ahead of its time. The counters are very easy to manipulate, very easy to see what's on them, and stacking is not that deep. So even where we have a battle going on, it's still much better than what you'd see, say, in regimental games for Gettysburg. I mean, where you have incredible thick stacks all bucked up against each other. Thinking of Terrible Swift Sword and its descendants. The actual paper that the map uses is actually, it's pretty hefty paper for a game map. This is not a flimsy map, and in fact it's kind of textured. I know you can't see it from the camera, but believe me, it is kind of textured. And of course I put it under plastic too. For the technology of the 1970s, remember this was published in 1980, this map is outstanding. It's got a period look to it that I really like. I mean, if you can take a broad view look of it, I mean, it's just a nice map to look at, a nice map to play on. It doesn't have much in the way of funkiness. Yeah, I guess a little bit of artisticness once you get into hills and whatnot. I mean, as far as a hex fully wooded or partially wooded, well, you got to have players who aren't nitpickers for some of this stuff. But assuming that you've got a good person to game with, or just playing solitaire, you'll have no problems with the map and what it's presenting to you. Taking a look at the counters, I'll show you that here's a unit. You can see this is very normal for the game. It's basically showing you the movement points. It's showing you that it's a bigger unit. There are some, say, such as this guy, who's showing you he's a little bit smaller. But you notice there's no numbers on there for strength. You don't get to see that. You have a casualty sheet that you don't have to share with the other side. So this is not a game for guys who want to count attack points to the last point and manipulate every rounding factor and everything to get everything just perfect. This game doesn't work that way. You've got your line of guys, you roll up, he's got his line of guys, he stands there, and you're kind of guessing as far as what the odds are going to end up being when you do your attack. This is not a shooting game per se, like a lot of regimental games are. It is a zone of control, calculating odds, obligatory attacks, kind of old style gaming. Remember, this was designed in the late 1970s, and to a certain extent it shows it, but it really works. Okay, so here's the brigade commander, Sherman in this case, Schenck in this case, the actual regiment, and that's really all you get other than the color of the uniform. Sherman's 2nd Wisconsin boys are in gray. That can cause extra randomization factors due to confusion on any attack or defense. And then Schenck, 2nd New York, in his Union blue. This is a section of a battery. This particular battery has 3 sections. This is the range that you can shoot at. This is the type of gun, rifle gun. This is showing that there's 2 guns. And this is the movement factors. Oh, this is the first section. There are 3 sections, so there's going to be 3 different sections in this battery, which may or may not be the same type of gun. The battery's commander, battery E, 3rd U.S. That's who they are. And of course, here's a leader. In this case, it's Tyler, I believe a division commander. He has 7 movement points, and there's not so many leaders that it's a problem to figure out who belongs to who. You actually have a casualty sheet that lays it out. It's pretty quick and easy to look that stuff up. One of the things that's in the game is leader casualties, but it's a little unusual in that most of the time the leaders aren't going to get shot dead. They're going to get degraded. And how they get degraded is simply, let's say if this leader takes 3 points of hits, his movement points are going to go down by 3. So it gets to the point where the leader becomes a liability because he can't move anywhere, in which case you have the option of removing him and putting in a replacement, who of course isn't going to be as good, but at least the guy can move around. And I just want to show you that yes, in fact, you can see the texture on the map, and it just gives the map a really nice look to it. The rulebook itself is probably where the game shows its age the most. It's simply a black and white, and not the most examples that you're used to seeing in say in a GMT game. Think of the coin system with all their beautiful examples and all their beautiful, the rule books are beautiful. They have the player's aid book. You get none of that here. This is old school stuff. And just to give you an idea, okay, so this is unit setup. This is how the text is presented. It's not the long tall columns like M&P games do a lot of the times. It's just text laid out across the page. Now, in this case, they're showing you the setup, how to set up a certain unit when they get released. So this is kind of what you see on most pages. There's not huge numbers of examples. The rules are reasonably well written. I didn't have a great deal of problem with them, although they tend to put a little bit of chrome in this game. It's not a stripped down game at all, even though the hexes look big and friendly, the units look big and friendly. There's a fair amount of stuff going on, so this is a game that you can sink your teeth into pretty well. In terms of the rules themselves and what they have you do, the turn breaks down into a rally and scatter phase, followed by an artillery bombardment phase, followed by movement, followed by combat. It's you turn, me turn. One side goes, then the other side goes. Now, the rally and scatter phase are one of the more interesting things of this game, and it really has a lot to do with how skittish units were at the First Manassas. When a unit is in combat, one of the things that can happen to it is that it gets disordered, and when it gets disordered, it wants to leave. If barring anything being done to keep it where it is, you roll 2 dice. 1 die is determining which hex it goes out of. It's going to be one of the 3 rear hexes, and the other die is how many hexes it's going to go. So when you have a guy in the line, say, like we have, over here, and we have a guy in the line and he's disordered, that guy's going to be making a die roll. And so if he rolls a 4, so that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He rolls a 4, he's going to go out his center hex to the rear. He rolls a 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he's going to haul out. Now, friendly leaders will stop him if he's only disordered. Cavalry units will stop him if he's only disordered. And he will not cause any cascading effect. On the other hand, if he's routed, he will cause a cascading effect. Leaders won't stop him. Basically, nothing will stop him except for enemy zones of control and overstacking. But aside from that, they're going to go. And if there's no leader with them, they're going to start straggling guys. And as you'll see when I talk about the Army rules, that's really important. Okay. So in Rally and Scatter, it's just what it says. You get to rally units that are disordered. You have to have a leader stacked on them. If the morale of the army is good, rallying from disordered is automatic. Rallying from rout for brigade leader or division leader is 1 chance in 3. Army leader is 50-50. So it's much harder, even at a high army morale, to get routed guys to come back. One of the things you can do with disordered units is you get to pivot them 60 degrees after they displace. So you can kind of guide them in the direction you want to go, sort of. But routed guys, they just go. They don't turn, they don't listen to you. If they go off the board, the entire unit's lost. All right, then artillery. Artillery is a matter of more distance than points. You have a modifier for based on the number of guns you're shooting, so 2, 4, 6 basically, and the range, and whether it's smoothbore or rifled. You're going to roll a result, and it could disorder the enemy, it could make them push them back, it could do nothing. If you use an optional rule, you can even blow up one of your guns if you're not lucky. So that's just artillery fire. And then movement. Units move to their movement allowance. It's printed on there. The guys that were doing the right hook for the Union are considered to be tired. They were marching since 2 in the morning, so they have a movement factor of 3. The other units have a movement factor of 4. Artillery goes 5, I think it is. You get bonuses for road movement. You have to pay extra for woods, all the normal sorts of things. Bull Run is impassable except at the bridges and fords, which is why these these units are set up to protect bridges and fords, because that's the only way to get across, and that's why this battle over here is kind of a big deal. So it looks like the Union is gonna punch through there. They're gonna collect some victory points and cause problems for the Southern cause. We'd really rather have their guys over here. After movement, units that end in each other's zones of control have combat mandatory, and it's done based on odds. You count up the attack points, you count up the defender points, you modify the defender points, give them some freebie points based on terrain, calculate the odds, and you roll 2d6. And results can vary from, well, up here, surrender, that's the defender at 5-1, if they're rolling snake eyes, or retreat 1, lose 1 point. Casualties are taken in individual points. It's not it's not like you flip the unit to half strength. It's much more gradual than that. And disorder him. Okay, so now he's disordered. He's going to be, unless he's got a leader with him, he's going to displace, as I discussed earlier. Each side has a casualty sheet, this one being the U.S. sheet. And so you can see, let's say here's Heinzelman's division. This is Franklin's brigade. Here the 11th Massachusetts has, when it's fresh, a 7 attack, an 8 defense, and a 3 movement. But if we go across here, we see there's 2 boxes X'd out. So that means what remains, instead of a 7-8 is a 6-7. And as it takes more and more casualties, it further degrades from there. Each casualty that you take counts against the Army morale. So, for example, this is the Confederate sheet for this game in progress. And we can see that there's 5, 10, 15, 20 hits that have been taken on the Confederate side so far in this game. That's okay, well, except for victory points. That does count for victory points. But once you hit 60, something magic happens. Once you hit 60, you hit the first morale break in Army morale. And so instead of having, say, an automatic rally from disorder, now it's 1 through 4. Okay? Instead of having a 50-50 for a Army leader bringing a guy back from rout, it's now 1 in 3, and a brigade or division commander is 1 chance in 6. So the Army itself starts getting more brittle. Once you get to 80, it gets worse, and once you get to 100, basically almost nothing's coming back when it breaks. That's how you can have an entire army swept off the field. You get up to 100 hits, and it's going to be, I don't know how you're going to stay around. If the other guy, say, has taken 1 morale break and you've taken 3, I think it's about all over. What I'm going to do for you now is show you some of the opening moves from a game that I'm just showing for demonstration purposes. But actually, this is the way the game actually starts. It starts as a small battle with the leading elements of Burnside coming in from the board edge, with Evans with most of his brigade, although not all of it, coming down the Sudley and Newmarket Road to meet him. There's some woods, there's some hills, and it's a question of is Burnside going to try to poke through, or is he going to lay back until more reinforcements come? And of course, for this demonstration, I'm going to have him go in just to show you how things work. All right, the game begins with the Union turn, and each turn is 15 minutes of real time. So, given that the game starts at 9:15 and ends at 5 in the afternoon, which time if no side has won by that point, then you count up victory points and figure out victory that way. Well, here we are at 9:15. The Union has the first turn. There's no artillery fire, of course. There is no units routing or anything, so we're left with the Union move. Now on major roads, which is this what is. That's what this is. The Union or units get 3 extra moves, and on secondary roads they get 2. And if they're on the road for any part of their turn, they get the full bonus. So they keep it simple in that regard. If this was a second edition game, we'd be able to flip the units over, and they would be in column. At least my understanding. We're dealing with first edition. I've got counters for that, so same difference, no big deal. All right, so let's just say Mr. Burnside's going down the road. So he's got 3 movement points because he's one of those flankers. He's tired. He's been going since 2 a.m. So he's got 1, 2, 3, and then he's got 3 bonus for being on a major road. 4, 5, 6. That's it. He's done. Put him in column. Just stack them up. Stack them up. And let's see, put the gray guys there, and how about the battery? Now, when units enter the board, they're in command control automatic. After that, they got to be within 3 of a brigade leader, or 5 of a division, their division commander or the army commander. So we stick the Burnside here kind of in the middle. Command control is good. That's it for the Union turn. It's time for the Confederate turn for 9:15 a.m. All right, all we have is Evans, the parts of his brigade that are active and sense something's going on the flank. So let's get them moving. All righty. So we've got 4 movement points because these guys have not been marching since 2 a.m. And plus we're on the major road, so that's going to be 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. 7, 7, 7. And that is it for the Confederate 9:15 a.m. turn. All right, here we are at 9:30 with the Union move. Again, there's nobody displacing, no morale issues, no artillery shots, so we're straight on to the actual movement part of the turn. All right, we've got a lead unit here. He is in column. It costs 2 movement points to leave column. He is on the road. As long as he's in column on that road, he's going to get up to 3 extra movement points for free. So let's take those. 1, 2, 3. All right, now since he's tired, he has 3. So let's say he goes 1 more and pays his 2 to change formation. Units face hex sides when they change formation in this game. So we got 3 front hex sides, 3 flank or rear hex sides. So we want to make sure we protect our rear. Once you are in contact, you may not change facing. So it's important to get it right. We don't want guys chasing around over here. It'll be a lot harder for them to get through those woods over there, especially since they're in column and have to pay to change formation. All right, that's 1 guy. And we got 1, 2, 3 free ones, 2 to change formation, 1 more, and he's done. Next, let's see. The gray guy, all right, it's going to go 1, 2, 3. Let's see, where do we want to be when we grow up? Going through, especially with only 3 movement points, going through those woods is tough. So let's not do that. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's go 1, 2, 1 and change formation. Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3. Change formation 1. We have zones of control going all across there. All right. We'll get to Burnside where we want to put him. All right, so the guns, bring up the guns. 1, 2, 3. And then, well, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. He's got 5 movement points. He can actually unlimber up here. And let's see if somebody wants to poke their nose over the top of that hill of the Stony Ridge. Next, Burnside's little guy here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 1 and change formation. Excuse me. And then this guy, oh, another mini battery. Now, the interesting part of this guy, if you look at him, his movement is 2. So I assume that this guy has got like no horses or not much in the way of horses. 1, 2, 3, and then he'll take his 2. Now, Burnside, remember, has got to keep his guys within 3 for next time. So if we pop him over there, he's got 7 movement points. Road bonus is a whole schmear. So he's kind of okay there. Everybody is within 3 hexes. Actually, I don't like this. That's going to be too tough with this guy, this slow guy. 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Actually, no. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, let's pop him here. We'll keep him limbered up. He is so slow. All right, that's it. Movement is done for the Union. Now we're on to the Confederate turn for 9:30. Okay, we can start seeing this is starting to get serious. There's no Confederate artillery shots. There's no morale issues. There's no displacing. So let's just start moving the Confederates. Okay. Now remember, they have a 4 movement factor plus their freebies for being on the road, although I don't think they're going to be using those much anymore. So for example, this guy, Mr. Evans, can change formation. That costs 2, and walking through the woods costs him another 2. You see, having 4 movement points is oh so much better than 3 when you're having to deal with woods. It doesn't make that much difference if you're going through clear, but if you're going through woods, it makes a big difference. All right, the next guy in line. Oh, it's the Louisiana Tigers. All right, well, they got 3 movement points down that road for free, so let's take them and let us change formation, get out of column. Very good, most excellent. How about the next guy? Oh, we got a battery. All right. Well, let's go 1, 2, 3, and then change formation. Now we have a choice. Batteries, when they're on the top, they can shoot, but they also take the hits if the Union closes. If they put them on the bottom, they can't shoot, but then they also don't do any good. So if we're going to use them, we might as well put them on top. Yeah, let's put them on top. They get some support from the infantry, but they don't get to. They're not hiding. They take the hits. All right, cavalry. Let's get something on this other road. 1, 2, and now we're on a road. We get to do 2 freebies on a minor road. There's 2 freebies. 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see Evans is actually in a good place. His range is 3 for command control, and he's in good shape. That would be the end of the 9:30 turn. Moving on to the 9:45 turn, we would start seeing reinforcements coming on. We would have B and Bartow's brigade coming for the Confederates way on the other side of the map. We don't have to deal with that here. But what we do have to deal with is taking a look to see if we have any artillery shots. Remember, routing and scattering is first. Now that nobody's routed, nobody's scattered. So the only thing that could possibly happen before movement is Burnside's battery here. He's up at 250 feet. The Stony Ridge looks to be 260 feet. I have to read the map. It's right there if you squint. So they're not going to see anything over that. So there's no shot from the artillery. That's there basically if the Confederates poke their heads over the hill, they get shot at. They didn't do it. Okay, that's fine. They're being honest. All right. Let us do something. So let's assume that Mr. Burnside ate his Wheaties today, and he wants to go ahead and cause some trouble. All right, so he's got 3 movement points. It costs him 1 to go. This is basically an empty hex if you want to look at it that way. It's not a full woods hex side, so he doesn't have to pay for that. And likewise, the slope doesn't cost him any movement either. So he goes in there. That costs him 1 movement point. Same thing here. He's going up slope, doesn't cost him, but 1, 2. All right. What just happened is we had 2 Union units enter the zones of control, the fixed and rigid zones of control of their opponents. So things are going to happen. But let's finish the Union move. We have to finish the move before we go on to combat. So we've got Burnside's 2nd New Hampshire. One of the unique things about this game is that since they put rivers in the hexes, you sometimes you need to keep track of what side of the river you're on, because did you pay the movement points to cross the river? So in this case, we had Burnside basically walking down the road. He did not pay the points, so he is on the right-hand side of this creek that's here. So to cross that, he's got to pay a movement point now. So this was clear hex that costs 1, but he's crossing the creek, so that's 2 and 3. Let's say this guy goes in like that, just because we don't want that give that cavalry any ideas. All right, this Burnside guy, the 71st New York, did change formation. So let's just kind of 1, 2, 3, and that's what he does. 1, 2, 3. We have this hand pulled artillery. 1, 2, 3 down the main road. He only has 4 movement points. So let's just. All right, we'll use one of them, and we won't change formation just yet. All right. Oh, and where's Mr. Burnside go? He wants to stay within 3 of everybody. So hey, if he joins that artillery, he's in good shape. All right, we are now on to the combat phase. Combat is basically rigid zones of control. All right, we are going to have stuff happening on the Blackjack White Oak Hill. If you look carefully, you'll see that right here, the Blackjack White Oak Hill. Trouble on it. All right, so let's take the 1st Rhode Island from Burnside, hitting Evans, the 4th South Carolina. Now, when you're Zoc to Zoc, you have to attack it. So that means that in a situation like this, you're going to have 2 individual attacks. You can't go 2 on 1. Both guys have to be attacked. If you had a 3rd guy, say over here, then you could do 2 on 1 on Evans, 4th South Carolina, and a 1 on 1 on the other guy. All right. So Evans, looking him up on the sheets, is a 4-5. So he's 5 on defense. He is on top of a hill that's over 250 feet tall. That gives him a +4. And going up the slope, or excuse me, in the woods, gives him another 2, but he can't be more than double, so 5 is going to double to 10. Burnside's 1st Rhode Island. Burnside's 1st Rhode Island is a 6. So he's going to be attacking at the joyous odds of 1 to 2. So 1 to 2, I rolled a 5. And let me show you this, because I bought myself some metal dice and I like them. So 5 on a 1 to 2 table is a contact result. Okay, that means they just buck up against each other, nothing happens. Now, in this game, to say that since attacking is obligatory, if Evans wants to stay there next turn, he's going to have to hit Burnside back again, and it may not be so happy with him on the attack. So it's quite possible that he's going to want to leave. In this game, there's no penalty for pulling out of a zone of control. No free shots, unlike many other games. The designer says, hey, rifles were not that accurate back then, and frankly, these are green troops with mostly unrifled guns. So there's probably something behind that. Okay. Now we've got Burnside's 2nd Rhode Island. All right, what happened to the 2nd Rhode Island? Oh, by the way, out of all the results on that CRT, the 2d6, that was the only contact. So this happens, but it doesn't happen all that much. All right, now we've got 2nd Rhode Island. Let's see, 2nd Rhode Island, Burnside is a 5-6. Okay, the other guy, this guy's a 5-6, and we've got Latham's 1st section of artillery. Latham's 1st section of artillery. He is 3. Okay, now he gets to borrow 2 points from the infantry unit, so he's a 5, and he's on the slope. But it's less than 250 feet, so it's going to be a +2. And let's see, +2, so it's going to be 1-1. No. 2-3. It's going to be 2-3. Okay. Just count up the points, calculate the odds. 2-3. So this is a little bit better than the other one. Let's see what happens. We got a 4. Union is rolling pretty well here. Okay. Attacker advances 1, defender retreats 1. Since it's a retreat of 1, the guns can be moved by prolong. They just kind of scoot back. Evans is going to get scooted back. Burnside has the option of advancing. Sometimes I think that you're being invited to stick your head in the grinder if you advance. So I'm going to say no, not this time. We don't want to be that aggressive. There's also melee combat in this game. To have melee combat, you have to start the turn adjacent to each other, and then you roll on the same CRT as you did with the regular fire combat, except that some of the results are modified. So, let's say instead of getting disrupted, you might rout. It makes it tougher on the morale. I would say. Outside of that, okay, we are now seeing our first attack. One was a contact, the other was a pushback. Nobody's died yet as far as points off the units. All right, now we're at 9:45 for the southern turn. Personally, I think it's time to boogie. I don't see any reason why to hang out here. So, and by that I simply mean pulling back Evans. But this is where, okay, does Latham have a shot? That's a good question. I'm going to say, it looks like that Woods comes in. I'm going to say he does have a shot. So let's try an artillery shot. All right. We've got a smoothbore guns. We have 2 of them at range 2 on the 2nd Rhode Island for Burnside. What we do? Here's the table. It's range based. We have smoothbore guns. Since we only have 2 of them there, that's going to be a +2 on the die roll. And I don't see anything else modifying. The guy is simply out in the open on the slope. So let's just roll 2 dice on this for the smoothbores at range 2. Oh, there is one modifier. Excuse me. Range 3 or less with smoothbores, -1 on the die. It's canister time. My dog's getting excited about canister. All right. He rolled an 11. 11, nothing burger. Oh, Charlie, nothing burger. Okay. So, and then we would, ammunition is tracked in this game. You'd mark off an ammo point off of Latham. When the Union runs out of ammo, they just run out of ammo. When units run out, there's no resupply. The Confederates do have resupply for smoothbore ammunition, at least a limited amount of it. But still, ammo is pretty much what you start with is what you got. All right. So as far as continuing the example, I think Evans simply pulls back. These guys are hunkering in their trees. The cavalry is hunkering over there. We're staying out of the line of fire of this big battery back here. Maybe we'll haul back Elsley or Evans 1 hacks. And there we go. And it's now would be the 10 o'clock Union turn. Well, all right. That was fun. Why don't we do that again? So there's no bad morale things going on. There's no artillery shots, so we simply move up Burnside. We move up Burnside. But now we can have a little bit more going on. So let's put the 2nd New Hampshire over here. And he's going to go, let's see, this little guy, he's going to go 1, 2 to cross the river. And then 3 to here. This really slow artillery. I think we just go the 2 down the road, change formation there, see what happens. As far as the other battery, I think we want to move it up. 2 to change formation. And let's free 1. 1. Or see, we have 2 for change formation, that'd be 3. 2nd free 1. 3rd free 1, because we're on a main road. 4, 5. Okay. And we're limbered up on the main road with Mr. Burnside, and 1, 2, 3. Let's move Mr. Burnside up 1 hex. He wants to have a little bit closer view of what's going on here. All right. All right, that would be the Union move, and now we're back to combat. We got the 1st Rhode Island hitting Evans' 4th South Carolina once again. All right, we're going to start with the 1st Rhode Island hitting Evans. Now this time Evans is not on the hilltop. He got pushed off. He's now on the downslope, so he's just going to get the woods benefit. He's got a 5 on defense. He gets 2 more. That makes him a 7. 1st Rhode Island is a 6. So last time it was 1 to 2. This time it is 2 to 3. So let's see what happens on the 2 to 3 table. And I rolled an 8. An 8 on the 2 to 3 table. Okay. The attacker is disordered and loses a point. So, Burnside, 1st Rhode Island, is disordered, and the 1st Rhode Island let's see. The 1st Rhode Island takes a hit. So that next time he will be slightly reduced, and say we're doing this for, if we're doing this for real, we would be putting a tally mark on the Army morale. Once you get to 60, bad things happen. All right, second one is a 5 against, what did we say last time? He was a 3 with 2, so it's a 5 on 5 with woods. It's a 2 to 3. All right, another 2 to 3. Let's see what the 2nd Rhode Island can do. He rolled a 7. 2 to 3 and a 7. Okay, that is a simple retreat result for the defender. Once again, they get pushed back, and they need to go down the roads. They say wherever possible, retreats have to go down roads. So he gets bumped back. Remember, if he comes up again, he's going to actually have to attack Burnside. Even though the only thing that happened seemed minor, he's going to lose this hex. He's getting pushed back. Now, over here we can calculate odds, but cavalry has a special ability. In this case, I think it's warranted to just simply retreat out of dodge, and the attacker does not get to advance into that. All right, that is the Union turn. Now, in the Union turn, we had 1 disordered unit. Now, one of the things that does is it halves his combat abilities. So I think he was on defense. I think he's a 7, so he would be a 4 on defense. So, whereas with the possibly Evans could take him on if he needed to. It would probably be another 2 to 3 attack. Of course, there's no why would he could, but why would he want to? Remember, we're going to have a whole bunch more Union coming down this road before long. This is just he's paying a delaying action, falling back to Henry House Hill. That's his job. His job is not to impale himself on Burnside. Okay, so we do not have any artillery shots this time because we now have solid woods. So let's see, the cavalry fell back 1, that's fine. I think we're just going to fall back here. We got the Louisiana Tigers, and I think it's time to leave with this guy. So let's put him 2. He gets three freebies, 1, 2, 3. And then he has 3 more regular movement points. Let's get him over here on that hilltop for next turn. Pull back Evans 1, and we've just finished the Confederate 10 o'clock turn. I don't want to take this too much longer, but what I do want to do is show you what happens at the 10:15 turn, because here for the first time we have a morale thing going on. All right, so first thing that happens in the turn is routes and rallies, or displacements and rallies. This guy's not routed, but he is demoralized, and he does not have a leader with him or a cavalry unit with him. If he had either one of those things, he wouldn't displace. The disordered units don't have a normal move. They don't normally move on their own other than displacing. But if a leader jumps on them, one of their leaders, they can pull them along and actually get them to move. So if a guy is disordered, he goes back a little bit. Then during the Union move, his leader could jump on and put him back in the line. So leaders have an interesting role to play in keeping their lines together. When you have disordered troops, the lines get ragged. Well, the leader can jump in and pull the line together, and since he's going to start the next turn stacked with his disordered unit, he will automatically rally if Army morale is good, so it's a good thing. However, if you put him back in the line, he's also there at half strength. So the next step down morale is rout, and that changes things. Okay, so Burnside, well, like I said, excuse me, we're going to have to roll for the rout or the displacement. So you roll 2d6. I got a 5 and a 2. So 5 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's going to go 2 this way. He goes right through the second Rhode Island. Since he's not routing, there's no morale effect on the second Rhode Island. If it was routing, the second Rhode Island would be disordered. And that's it. All right. So now we're up to, see, there was no artillery shots. We're up to moving. So I'll do exactly what I said. We're going to take Burnside, and we're going to jump on here. Now, since I did that, I could go over here and jump on Evans. However, I would have to attack him. So it may be smarter to take the pause that refreshes and just get his head screwed back on rather than push a bad situation. I think we can go ahead, though, have the second New Hampshire go and do its thing. And I think we can fill out the line here so that next turn at 10:30 we're going to have a good solid line coming. And then, yes, and then next turn we start seeing the first of the reinforcements. Remember, there's a whole bunch of guys coming down this road, and we're going to start seeing the next batch of them coming down that road. So Evans, he's going to be motivated to leave fairly soon because it's wide open spaces. All they have to do is that they could take this branch of the road, and now they're over here, and then they're getting kind of behind him and on the way to Henry House Hill. Okay, so I wanted to show you the displacement. I did that. The Union is taking it easy this turn. They're not going to press this except for over here, and Evans' cavalry is just going to say adios one more time. And this is how the game starts. Evans is going to be pushed harder to leave, and he will have to leave once the next batch of reinforcements comes in. He did a good job. He did, I think, one hit on Burnside. He didn't take any hits in return. So he's in fine shape, and now but once he gets out of these woods, it starts getting a little more dangerous. I mean, yes, there's slopes and things, but it's definitely a more dangerous place for him to be. He's going to have to be careful. All the way back to Henry House Hill, which is that pile of units over there that I messed around with getting this set up. Okay, that's basically how the game goes. It works extremely well. Once you have more units bumping into each other, yes, it does slow down, but this is not Terrible Swift Sword. This is not 3 Days of Gettysburg. It is a game that you can actually play through and in a reasonable amount of time and with a reasonable stacking density and all of that stuff. What I'd like to do now is just do what I call a 3 up, 3 down analysis of the game. Things I like, things I think could be better, just to give you my opinion. First thing, let's start with the up. The ebb and flow of the game is a lot of fun. When your lines collide, you have no idea who's going to be taking demoralization hits. The amount of different things that can happen there's a lot of different things that can happen once things come together. And so when you have one big line, say 6 or 8 units hitting another line of 6 or 8 units, you just don't know because you don't even know how many strength points the other guy has. You're not showing each other your sheets. So all you know is that, well, is it a kind of a big unit, like the Burnside Second Rhode Island here, or is it more like Evans, the fourth, or these guys? They're smaller. That you just see on the graphics of the unit. That's all you know. If you are paying attention and you know that a certain unit has been engaged a lot and been taking hits, okay, you can kind of guess it's not what it used to be, but you don't get to see the sheet. And so that leads to a lot of uncertainty and good gameplay in the sense that you're not, you're not sitting with a guy who's like counting every last point, trying to get the ultimate table break scenario. It's like, okay, Terrible Swift Sword. Oh, I want to get on the 4 to 6 column, so we're going to make sure we count every last shot, every last point that's coming out of the units to get as many 4 to 6s as one. You want 4 points on each guy. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. This is not like that. It's just your line bucks up, you say who's attacking who. Everybody who is in a Zoc to Zoc situation has to be attacked. Sometimes, because of the way the hexes are, you can get 2-on-1. Okay, that's good. But even then, there's no guarantees, because maybe your 2 are nowhere near as good as his 1. Army morale system, it's just a beautiful thing. It makes the game model history very well. Once you are at the first morale break, you're at a disadvantage. Once you hit the second morale break, your army's starting to get brittle, and by the third morale break, your guys are going to be leaving. And if the other guy has an advantage there, he's going to press it. If you're both have broken armies, boy, that would be a tough situation, is to say who's going to do what. Just kind of depends on who's got the positional victory points at that point. And as I said, the uncertainty, the third thing is the uncertainty, the replayability, and the fun of the game. You know, it's not so complicated that you're going to pull your hair out reading these rules, even though that they are a little bit older, in an older style and an older concepts in the game. Still, you're going to have a lot of fun with this game. In some ways, it's kind of nice to go back and revisit the way things were. It gives you a comfortable feeling as far as the game flow, because you've kind of seen things like it before. On the negative side, it is an older style game framework. It's me turn, you turn, rigid zones of control. You know, the game could have been done, say, with a chit pull system. That's possible, and maybe somebody would want to experiment with that. I don't know, but it does not have the new concepts that are out there. Although it does have its innovations. The army morale is very innovative. It certainly adds to the game. The whole thing about displacement rolls, I don't remember seeing that anywhere else. So, and that remains innovative to this day. There's a lot of good things about the way they put the rules together as well. The rules would benefit from a modern treatment and some streamlining. They're written well enough. They could have been written better. They could have contained more examples. There could have been a playbook showing a detailed sequence of play to get some of the more detailed chromish sort of rules and demonstrate those. There is a fair amount of chrome in here that I have not talked about. You know, say one of them is the color of the uniform, right? That's a bit of chrome. It's fun, but was it necessary? No, but it has a few rules. You're rolling on a table to modify the die roll, the die roll that you're getting, okay, or possibly a column shift even. A more modern treatment with more examples or a playbook showing an extended example play would have been a welcome thing, as well as some color. You know, the rule book, it's just kind of black and white and boring, but this thing was put together in 1979 and published in 1980. What do you expect? Then there's the bookkeeping. You know, I think more modern games try to keep away from that, whereas in this game you got to embrace it. But the side benefit of that is the uncertainty of how strong the other guy is, and not being able to count down to the last factor to get a table break. It just doesn't work that way in this game, and I think that's one of the charming things about it. All right. My final thoughts on this game is absolutely a winner. I'm sure you could tell that I like this game. It's elegant, it's well presented. I love the big counters. As the older I get, the more I love the big counters. You know, I bought the game 40 years ago. The game you're looking at here is like 40 years old. So I like it. I think this game, given that Compass Games is kind of latching on to older titles and republishing, they recently did Bar Lev, which I personally like that game, except for the nuclear game map that the John Hill edition has. I'm glad they did that. This would be a great candidate if they could get the rights to republish this, give it a little bit more of a modern treatment. But if you do that, don't mess with the beauty of the map, and don't mess with the nice big honking counters. They don't need to be changed. It's still the best Manassas game out there after 40 years. Okay, that's my opinions. That's a little bit of flavor of what this old but fantastic game has to offer. As I said earlier, you can find copies of it out on eBay. I did. They don't quite cost you an arm and a leg, maybe just an arm, but this is what you pay. You get what you pay for. There is a Ziploc edition as well that you might be able to get for somewhat less, and of course there's the regular boxed edition that's also available. from time to time. Usually I find that most times there's usually at least one copy out there. So if you wanted to get this for yourself, I think you would be able to do so. Outside of that, this is Paul with the Oak and Night, and wishing you a good afternoon. And if you liked what you saw here, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks much. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.